Dan Hicks, you became a SigEp brother your freshman year at the University of Arizona and immediately became active in chapter life. In addition to serving on several committees and as Rust chairman, you were highly involved in assisting Arizona Beta's fundraising activities. Even then, sports played a major role in your life. You were on several intramural teams, while also working as a sports writer for the campus newspaper and honing your skills as an announcer by calling Arizona's women's basketball games. It was thanks to a chapter brother who gave you a heads up about the job that got you that first announcing gig during college. After graduating, you remained in your hometown of Tucson, where you landed a job reporting for a couple of local radio stations. It didn't matter that they didn't cover sports at the time, and you had to convince your managers for them to do so. Or that the job was a part-time and the pay was just $5 an hour. You were learning the ropes of the business. When a weekend sportscaster position opened up at the local NBC affiliate, you went for it. And even though the news director thought you were too young and inexperienced, you convinced him to give you a chance. It was your first on-camera job. A few years later, at just 26, you were tapped to join the team covering sports at CNN. The new job meant a move to Atlanta. At the time, CNN was still a young network, less than 10 years old. And you were one of the anchors the company relied on to establish itself as a serious network. For the next 3 years, you not only served as the weekend host of CNN Sports Tonight, but also hosted the cable network's college football and basketball preview shows. Known for your professionalism, your wit, and ease on camera, it's no wonder that NBC Sports came calling in 1992. Working for this sports media giant was a childhood dream, and you've certainly made the most of it over the last 25 years. In your role as a play-by-play announcer, you've called everything from NFL and NBA games to the French Open to the Ironman triathlon. Since joining NBC, you've also become one of the network's lead Olympic analysts and have been part of 11 Olympic broadcasts. You've covered speed skating and alpine skiing at the Winter Games, and at the Summer Games, you're nearly as big a fixture at the Olympic pool as Michael Phelps. But of course, we can't talk about you and your phenomenal career as a broadcaster without discussing your work as a golf analyst. Since hosting your first U.S. Open in 1992, your insightful commentary and analysis of player strategy has made you a favorite of golf fans across the country. You've also hosted NBC's broadcasts of the U.S. Women's Open, the President's Cup, and the World Golf Championships. But since 2000, you've been best known as one of the hosts of the network's PGA coverage. From your perch in the tower on the 18th hole, you and your co-host, former U.S. Open and British Open champ, Johnny Miller, have created one of the best-loved announcing partnerships in all of sports. Now also the lead analyst for Notre Dame football, you've balanced the green and the gridiron for the past 4 years. You called more than 50 NFL games in your early years with NBC and had missed the thrill of calling plays on the game day ever since. Your outstanding body of work has garnered many accolades, including 2 Emmy nominations, and placed you in an elite class among sports journalists. But at heart, you're still the same guy who enjoyed socializing with his brothers at the chapter house. And you're still a huge part of the chapter today. As member of the inaugural class of Arizona Beta's Hall of Fame, you continue to inspire your chapter brothers every day. I'd like to say that for sports fans everywhere, in particular your SigEp brothers, it's been such a pleasure to watch you all these years. We don't tune in just to watch the action on the course, in the pool, or on the field. We also tune in to share the experience with you. Brother Dan Hicks, we're so pleased to be here with you today, and it is our honor to award you with the Sigma Phi Epsilon Citation.
Well, I'll take care of one bit of business before we move on any further. And they were trying to shame Rick into giving his best golf announcer imitation and his best golf whisperer voice, and he just didn't want to go there. So I'll start you off and just say, let's go to 17. All right, so we took care of that. First of all, I just want to relay the experience I had last night at the gala. This is my first conclave. Keith had mentioned that this was his first, and so there was a lot of kind of getting used to what this whole week is all about. And I came away with two things from that last night where they raised over $100,000, so congratulations on a great night of fundraising. But I came away with two things. First of all, I've always been obviously a huge fan of SigEp and what they can do in the fundraising efforts, but I gain an even bigger respect for this organization when they raised $10,000 to take a pair of Madras pants off a guy on stage. That was the most impressive auction item ad-libbed in the history of fundraising events. Can't recall the guy's name, but you all know who I was talking about there. But a serious note, when I first got here, I would notice some buttons on lapels of various brothers with a picture of a guy on there, and I immediately thought, obviously, that we'd lost a brother. That was Sean McKenna. I never knew Sean McKenna, but just being at that gala last night and being in that room and feeling the respect and the love for him, I felt like I knew him. But obviously, he's had such a huge impact on this organization and in past conclaves and fundraising efforts and on down the list. So I came away with, you know what? This is what it's all about. This guy fought the fight, and all the brothers and all the people that knew him were there to pay a great tribute to him last night. So that was a very special night to be involved with, for sure. I'd like to start off by just saying congratulations to my fellow citation recipients, Keith and Bob. Bob, you look great in the suit, and any guy that's secure in a sport coat and a mock turtleneck is all right with me. I had no idea the production efforts that could be put into this speech. Keith, it should not surprise us that his production effort might go down as the greatest in citation history. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But the timing of the pictures and then the timing of the SigEp Journal cover boy shot at the end, ending with an exclamation mark, speaks to his true production talents. So anyway, it's been fun to get to know Keith. I don't know Bob, but man, so humbled to be in your company with all the incredible things you've accomplished. And Keith, our paths have crossed briefly in the past. We were talking about being at the 2008 Summer Games, which was one of the great experiences of my life. I'll talk about that in a second. But we were at this Omega party, one of the many companies that Keith represents along his incredible career path. And we just were recalling all of these events that we were actually at but hadn't seen each other, albeit for just a couple of brief times. So again, this is what this week is all about, being able to connect with Keith and some other brothers as well. As was mentioned by Rick, I did get my start at the University of Arizona, and it was due to a SigEp brother. I mean, it was incredible. It was a Friday afternoon. I'll never forget it. There was an ad in the Arizona Daily Wildcat, the student newspaper, and it said, public address announcer needed for the University of Arizona women's basketball team. And I hadn't seen the ad in the campus newspaper, but a brother of mine walks by and he'd kind of heard me imitating various sporting events and announcers. So he kind of knew I had a passion in the industry. He says, Dan, did you see this ad in the newspaper? And I said, no, I didn't see it. He goes, they're paying $25 for a guy that can do all the games for the women's basketball team. You should give that a try. They have the auditions at McHale Center, which was the basketball arena. I had to go over there and do it. And I thought, wow, I'm kind of late to the game. In fact, I was the last guy to interview for the job. They sat you down in the arena, and then they had the athletic director sit up in the stands to hear how your voice sounded. So I thought, man, I got to kill this, or I'm just going to be another person that tried out. So I gave it my best. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to McHale Center. That was that announcer voice that I gave, and they kind of perked up and they said, hey, this kid might have it. So I ended up getting the job, and I do think SigEp brother Chris Shields, Arizona Beta, who was the guy that saw that ad in the newspaper, that really kind of got me on the path to where I am today, $25 a game. I went through Rush. I didn't have solid intentions of pledging the fraternity, but as soon as I started going through, obviously having a great time, there's 12, 13 kegs in a Friday night that we went through. And again, it's a different era, Bob, and it's a good direction that the SigEp nation is headed into. But we had a great time. But also what struck me was the quality of the individuals. Through all of this maturing as 18, 19, 20-year-olds, I recognized that there was a maturity to these guys. And I thought, these are guys that I can emulate myself, and I can look at them as a mentor. And sure enough, these guys ended up being some of the most successful people in the various businesses that they pursued. So I was really impressed. Pledged SigEp, and the rest is so-called history. But as I left SigEp, you tend to kind of lose track of some of your brothers, but I found that my passion to do what I do was, again, a little bit off the beaten path. I was in Arizona at the time. Commercial real estate was booming, and that seemed to be one of the jobs that a lot of guys went after. And some of them went after it with good intentions, that was truly passionate, and they did a great job and made lots of money, very successful and all of that. But there were some other guys that just were doing it because there seemed to be a lot of money involved with it, and they thought that that was important enough to go ahead and pursue it because of that. And I had more than a couple people say, you're really going to go be a sports announcer? Really? You're going to do that? I said, yeah, I really believe, and I don't care necessarily what level I get to, but it's going to make me happy. It's going to satisfy the passion that I have for sports, because once I realized I wasn't going to be shortstop for the New York Yankees, I had to find another way to get involved in sports and have the best seat in the house. And Keith's talked about how exciting sports are, and I feel like I've never truly worked a day in my life. So I went down that path, and the preparation that it takes and the work ethic is something that I learned at SigEp first. I learned it obviously from my parents growing up, but it was something that was instilled in me as I made that passion into reality. And I talked about mentors. So I'll flash forward because a lot of my career has been talked about by Rick, and I don't want to sit up here and bore you about it, but mentors are so important. I had a chance to meet with, I think, 12 or 13 of the Arizona Beta young guys here. I haven't been in the house to help kind of get it back on track after we lost our house across the street. But these were really impressive young people, reminded me of myself. And so I feel it's an obligation and a responsibility to reach out to young people. I know there's a lot of young guys in the back of the room, and again, the meeting I had with these Arizona Beta kids was perfect, because it gave me an opportunity to be a sounding board and be the person that I was looking for when I was coming up in the business. So when I got to NBC Sports, they told me to observe two teams, as I'd never done play-by-play in sports. And the two teams were Dick Enberg and Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones is no longer with us, God rest his soul, but Dick Enberg is still here and truly was a mentor of mine. I went to the booth, I traveled with him to the game. He would show me his depth chart of all the guys and all the preparation that went into it and the hard work that he says, Dan, he goes, what you wish for is that you use 10% of this information, because that is telling you you've got a great game and you've got to let the event happen. I mean, just sage advice like that to a young kid, and I was wide-eyed listening to him. It's just, and I told myself at that point, especially after I observed Charlie Jones and his crew, he was a different kind of guy. but he was different. I remember sitting in the hotel lobby as I went to the game with him. I said, Charlie, what do you do before you actually travel to the city that you're doing a game in? And he looks at me, and without hesitating, he says, in that gravelly voice of his, he says, kid, play lots of golf. And I thought to myself, that doesn't sound like the best piece of advice ever. So my point is, it was etched in my mind who took the time to help me and who maybe didn't take the time. And so as I go on in my post-career after SigEp, that is one of my lifetime missions, is to always have time for young people. We call it reaching down the ladder and bringing them up. And obviously, with what I do, most of it is involved with aspiring broadcasters and sports enthusiasts who want to make it a career. So I'm adamant on keeping that goal of mine throughout the rest of my life. A couple of quick stories about two guys that I've had the privilege to cross paths with professionally and personally. And it's Michael Phelps, who you saw there, and Tiger Woods. It's been an amazing journey, and there's a lot of luck in this business. First of all, you have to have the properties. NBC's had the properties that are my specialties: golf, Olympics, and football, and so on and so forth. But it also takes good timing from a standpoint. We first got to know Michael Phelps when he was 15 years old in Sydney, 2000. And we were told, this guy's going to be pretty good. Little did we know how good he was going to be and how amazing he would change the sport of swimming forever. We did maybe one swimming event every couple of years. Now, Rowdy Gaines, my great friend and partner, does over 20 swimming events every year on NBCSN and NBC. So it just tells you how one iconic athlete can change the course of a sport. And right in the same kind of personality trait, and I used to refer to Phelps as Tiger and a Speedo because those two guys reminded me so much of one another. The unbelievable competitiveness that both had, the drive that they had, the work ethic that they had, and the preparation that they had was no different really than what I was doing and than what a lot of you do in whatever business you're in. You prepare, you work hard, and there's no substitute for it. So watching those two perform when the pressure's on at its highest, and I wouldn't say the pressure's on me as near as it is on Tiger trying to sink a putt at the U.S. Open at getting a playoff with Rocco Mediate like he did back in 2008, or Michael Phelps getting on the blocks and knowing that if I don't come through in this race, I've got another 4 years to think about this, what might have happened, what could have happened. So those two ferocious competitors have set a great example for me to look at and be exposed to on a real up-close and personal basis. And I have to credit those two guys for driving the particular sport that I have been involved with. There'll never be another Michael Phelps. There'll never be another Tiger Woods. I really believe that. You have to be careful in sports to say that because the next guy or it girl will come along and kind of change the face of it. But I really believe that's how special those two athletes are. And they both have their challenges out of the pool and off the course as well. Those have been well documented, but I really feel that both of them are finally reaching a point and have reached a point in their lives where they can be as good as citizens outside the sporting arena as they have in the throes of competition. I think that, in just spinning off of that, I think that the most important thing we can do in and out of our businesses, whatever we may do, is to foster the relationships that I've seen at this conclave this week. Again, first time I've been exposed to this on this kind of massive level. And it really is what life is all about. You can do this, you can rack up awards, you can rack up a financial account, you can do this, do that, but it's all about the relationships you have with people. So when it's all said and done, that is going to be the most important thing I think we leave, is who have we touched? Who have we impacted? And the amount of impact that goes on during this week leads me to believe I can say, like Keith, this will not be my first and last conclave, that's for sure, because I'm witnessing the great work that is done by all of you. I am so humbled to be mentioned in the same breath and be a Citation Award winner along with these guys. I don't know how I ended up getting to join such great company, but just truly humbled by the award and truly humbled by being here this week. So I'll leave you with one thing. Take care of all these relationships. Your friends, obviously your family is the most important one, but especially those of your fellow brothers, because that really is who you are. And the reflection that you have on those people and they have on you will enrich you for the rest of your life. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.